afternoon, whenever you're listening to this. Welcome to the internet's most sophisticated wrestling podcast, discussing the weekly aspects of it all, right here on
The Bald Monkeys Wrestling Podcast.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the Bald Monkeys Wrestling Podcast. And may I say, what a really bad SmackDown we had this week. I mean, it was hard. It was hard to watch. With the exception of two spots. I'm going to give credit to two spots, right? And one was a spot that I wasn't expecting to give credit to, which was a spot that I didn't necessarily think was working until it got to the climax, which was the Rey Mysterio, Cain Velasquez, Dominic, Lesnar promo. Like I was like, okay, I don't know that I'm even feeling this. Even at the point where you see Lesnar on the Titantron, having been in the back, having beaten up Dominic, I'm like, okay, and I'm not sure if I'm feeling this. But then they go to check on Dominic, and Lesnar comes in and beats everybody up and throws Rey Mysterio into the wall. Quite effective for me. I was like, okay, yeah, I'm digging this.
It was very reminiscent of Mysterio getting lawn darted into the side of a truck trailer. So I think that's why it worked for me.
You guys just like midget tossing, that's all.
Chuck, how far do you think you could toss a midget?
I don't know. I think I've tossed Creamy Kramer at least like 10 feet.
Well,
I've seen him power bomb some little men into bushes as well.
Yes, that has happened before. But yeah, man, I mean, if you've listened to the podcast before, you have surely heard my my hate for Brock Lesnar at times, but I don't know, over the last 2 months I kind of haven't minded him so much, and I actually loved him throwing Rey into the wall and then F5ing Velasquez right onto Dominic on the table. I thought that was awesome.
Yeah, it was fun.
I don't know if it's getting like Brock Lesnar's gimmick getting over now, or if it's the fact that Cain Velasquez is just, I don't know, just not believable at this point. I understand he was a really good fighter, but I don't know. In WWE so far, I don't believe him yet. He just looks weird. He's got odd body. His picture on the promo doesn't even look like him. Like, can we get a different picture for him to face off against Brock Lesnar? Why do we have to have some random picture? It doesn't even look like him.
Well, that's like the picture. It's like kind of like the picture they use for Shawn Michaels nowadays. If Shawn Michaels does anything, it's like, that's not what Shawn Michaels looks like right now.
Don't worry, his picture on the Titantron just looks like all the faces in WWE 2K20. They're all messed up.
Wow. Ooh. I felt bad for him. Oh.
But no, Tiro's right. I mean, it's when you're just starting off and you're getting thrown into, I would say, and I think this goes for Tyson Fury as well, when you're getting thrown into a high profile match and you really have never done anything before in the quote unquote sports entertainment world. I mean, how do you expect to be able to go in and actually like really like do anything? Like, if it was me, like, I feel like all those old, like those reactionary things that you would do in an MMA ring or whatever, or in a boxing ring, would come to the forefront, and like it would take over like what a normal professional wrestler would do.
Okay, so with Velasquez, though, he's done some independence over the last couple months. I've seen some of his stuff, and it's not bad. He's been getting better. He's been doing a lot of lucha libre, but he's also been wearing a mask with the whole process. And apparently ever since he made the decision, he's been lifelong friends with Ray, and Ray's been training him and teaching him stuff. He likes to jump off the top rope and do some of those crazy things, which, to Chris's point, which is really weird, seeing the big blob of a body jump off of stuff. But he's been getting better on the independents from what I've seen. So maybe he won't be as bad, but I still think it's going to be a car crash of a match.
Well, he ain't in the independents anymore, because once you sign with WWE, no more independents.
Yeah, and can we get him WWE? Like, I know one of you guys are listening, but can we get him to stop speaking Spanish? We know the dude can actually speak English. Like, come on.
Yeah,
That's also an MMA thing. When they get crap talking or shit talking or talking smack or whatever you want them to say they're doing to each other, they start yelling at each other in their own language, like the heart and the passion they have for the fight and all that. I think that's a Fox thing pushing.
Well, we'll see about that. I thought the spot was effective. So surprisingly enough, there was a Firefly Funhouse on this episode of SmackDown, and it's not my second thing that worked because it was,
thank the Lord,
by far the worst Firefly Funhouse that they've ever had because of the abrupt ending of it. Like, it was almost like, oh, here's a fleshed out idea for a Firefly Funhouse, and but for time's sake, we're gonna cut the last half of it off.
No, it was the here's the PG version of the Firefly Funhouse, and we're not gonna do anything that might be a little bit off to anything. So we're not going to do any let me ins. We're not going to do any like Fiend, jumping back and forth video or anything. We're just going to keep it as boring as possible and totally kill the entire bit of the Fiend.
Well, that is obviously the fear, but I don't necessarily think that that's going to be the case, because that would be misguided by the WWE, to say the least.
Detrimental?
Yes. That being said, it was a big miss for me personally. It just felt really weird. Ramblin' Rabbit gets resurrected, and then he's eaten again, and then abrupt stop. And I'm okay. Well, you didn't talk about anything. All you said was, "See you at Crown Jewel." I mean, the problem with this episode of SmackDown was the whole thing was like an advertisement for Crown Jewel, and I understand that they need to do that, but at the same time, you didn't really have any compelling matches at the same time, with the exception of, like, I would argue maybe that the crowd put over the last match of the night, but I don't know that it was anything special. My personal favorite thing of the night was Sami Zayn out there with Nakamura trying to pitch Daniel Bryan to join them in like a faction. And it was just a really, really, really good segment. He cut a great promo, and I'm torn because in WWE right now, there are some baby faces, but more and more people tend to be going heel every single day. So should Daniel Bryan actually go heel? I mean, the problem is the truth. And that promo where Sami Zayn's saying, listen, nothing's changed. I know who you are. Nothing's changed. Like, why would you go back to, giving these people the joys of saying yes when you just be living a lie? Because that's not who you are. You are the new Daniel Bryan, and that is accurate to who you are as a person. Like, those type of promos that Sami Zayn cuts are so good because they really do cut to the truth. Like, screw the audience sometimes. We're awful. As fans, we're awful. We don't even know what's best half the time. So, I mean, I was really, really digging that promo. I thought it was the best thing of the night.
I feel like they were kind of doing a throwback to the old storyline where Daniel Bryan wasn't saying a word. like Daniel Bryan was going to shock the WWE universe, and we were making guesses that he was going to 205 Live or something ridiculous. They're almost going back to that promo now and going back to that storyline where he's not saying anything, and they're teasing that he's going to come up with some random thought. I agree. It's like it makes more sense to just keep him heel at this point. Turning him face so quickly after the long stretch he had as a heel, I don't get it unless they have plans for other people to go heel and they need more faces right now. I don't know. It just doesn't seem like it would work though. I love the idea of the faction that was sitting there. I'm like, man, this would be a very interesting faction. Zayn, Nakamura, and Daniel Bryan. I mean, I don't even know who they would go up against, but it would just be interesting to start building a little bit of a faction in WWE on SmackDown.
It would be Nakamura with two people that are really great on the mic, though.
Yeah. But I want to go back to that last match and try to understand how over that match was with the crowd. And it was an okay match. I mean, it wasn't anything spectacular. It was spot after spot. But holy cow, the crowd got into that match. And I don't even know what turned them on so much to that match. It just seemed like every minute, every move in that match, it was getting louder and louder and louder. And it was like not a match that really meant anything. Yet somehow they pulled the crowd in, and the crowd just made it seem like this incredible main event that we haven't seen in a long time.
It also maybe was the only reasonable match the whole night. That's, because even though on paper you would look at Ziggler Rude versus the New Day, it was marred by an iffy ending. I'm not going to say it's a bad ending because I've got like theories behind that, but I would say it was a bad ending for a live audience.
Yeah, so let's go back to SmackDown and what they want to be, right? SmackDown wants to be more real sports as far as we keep hearing from Fox. Let's talk about what we saw on Raw versus what we saw on SmackDown. Who showed more wrestling and who showed more real sports on SmackDown or Raw, in your guys' opinion? And it's a 1 week sample, I understand.
Raw.
Like think of the matches on Raw, right, Steven? Like McIntyre Ricochet, amazing match. It was a
Definitely
great match
Raw.
for a Raw. I mean, Rollins and Humberto Carrillo, good match. Street Profits versus the OC was a well put together match. I even think I would argue that the Viking Raiders and Hawkins and Ryder was a great enhancement match for the Viking Raiders. It's some good wrestling. Now there's definitely some crap on Raw, but those were good matches. And then SmackDown just lays an egg with Evans over, whoever that local talent was. And
she was so excited. She looked so excited that she might actually win. It was like, okay, when you go in there, this is what's going to happen. And you really need to act really, really excited. And then you're just going to get punched in the face.
And the timing of it wasn't even great either.
No, the timing in the Nikki Cross Mandy Rhodes match, I thought was very, very sloppy to me.
Well, that's just Nikki Cross and Mandy Rose.
Yeah, and her midget legs and her leprechaun hat and all that.
Well, it's funny. So this takes me to another topic of the week. What the heck happened to women's wrestling on Monday night?
Dude, it's not happening. I'm surprised that they even put two matches on SmackDown.
Dude, after I was talking about how much the women's division is better on Raw, SmackDown, and NXT than it is on AEW, they put on two matches on the main shows, and they were two terrible matches. One wasn't even a match. One was a spot, a promo spot. And honestly, the tag match on NXT was crappy, and the Ripley Belair match was sloppy because of Belair. Because I still think she's just a long ways off from being a main event wrestler. So it was a rough week for women's wrestling.
Well, I mean, and I don't know if we talked about this a little bit last week or through the text, but I mean, they are going to a pay-per-view on Thursday that is no females. So I mean, it's almost like they like, well, we're prepping for this, so we're not going to show any women's match really, and rather than like show maybe a couple of more women's matches, which probably would have made more sense.
Yeah, I would argue that it would have made more sense to give them the week to showcase the women a little bit, since they're not going to be on at all on Thursday. But you're right, they did the opposite. They wanted to build up these matches for Thursday, so they basically took the women completely out of the storylines.
Yeah,
I mean, it's short-sighted again, as usual.
Well, I wonder if like so I wonder if in a place like Saudi Arabia, if they get Raws and SmackDowns and then they edit them down so that they don't have women's wrestling, and maybe what they did was do a Raw with 0 women to maybe create a long Raw that they could just send over to Saudi Arabia to make them feel special.
Yeah, I mean, who knows? Any of our Saudi Arabian listeners, if you want to, put in the comments once we get this up, what actually happens out there in Saudi Arabia. But you could let us. But I mean, going back to Raw, I mean, you give Aleister Black a squash match. I mean, that could have easily been a woman's spot. The King's Court with Rusev and the whole go to the restaurant thing, it needed to be for their storyline and whatnot. And it's fine. Yeah, I know. I hate the storyline, but it's whatever.
Fine. It's working in its own way.
Yeah, but now the Mysterio, Shelton Benjamin, Velasquez thing, I was kind of like, are they just trying to throw, like, why are we getting Shelton Benjamin now? That's what I'm trying to figure.
I know, but here's the thing: it was almost so good to me. To me, Cain Velasquez ruined that segment, because Mysterio out there, and I'm just like, okay, I don't know. But then when Shelton Benjamin gets in there and he gets in his face and he's like, I'm friends with Brock Lesnar. I trained with them. Like, I was really, really digging that. And then Kane came out and just ruined that segment for me. Again, I thought he was fine in the segment on SmackDown. So it was specifically just him who ruined the Mysterio, Shelton Benjamin, Velasquez promo. Like, Velasquez it just didn't work for me.
He just ruins everything so far.
Yeah.
I don't know. I think he's it's bad timing almost for him. It seems like I feel like if he would have had more time, maybe he would be more polished. Maybe if he would work out, not look like a melted piece of ice cream. Like maybe Cain Velasquez would be more believable right now, but he's just not.
What was funny was we're all watching Raw this week, and we're all going back and forth, and we get about halfway through it, and we're like, man, this has been a pretty good episode of Raw. And not 2 seconds later, they put a mic in Humberto Carrillo's face, and they let him talk. And oh my goodness, one of the worst promos ever was cut. He was awful.
Dude, he needs a mask. I can't look at that kid's dimples. I mean, it's ridiculous.
Chuck, you're too turned on by his dimples. You need him to cover those up.
Dude, it goes back to like the whole, like, man, he is an amazing wrestler, but when you look at that kid, he don't look like a wrestler. He looks like the guy that works at McDonald's.
Do people at McDonald's have dimples?
People everywhere have dimples, Jimmy. I mean, get out a little bit.
Yeah, when they interview people for jobs at McDonald's, they say, all right, first question, you got dimples? Because otherwise you're not Big Mac material.
Yeah. Well, I'll have to take note of that the next time I go to a McDonald's.
How
many people have dimples?
They're all out there.
There's dimples everywhere.
But he did have a really solid match against Seth Rollins.
Yeah, no, that was a great match. I thought. I thought that match was very good, and I think he is capable of having many matches like that. So that's not a problem. It was just a weird spot. It was a weird spot with Seth actually stopping what he was doing and then going and talking to Humberto Carrillo in the first place.
Agree.
And that's been an issue that I've had with Seth Rollins over the past few weeks, is that his promos are so awkward. It's just, I know me and Chris were talking about it a little bit earlier in the week while we were working, but it was, I don't know. I mean, I don't know what it is. It's just one of those things where they need to be able to improvise lines just a little bit more than they're allowed to. Because sometimes the lines that they write for these guys to say are just so silly. You know, I lose a piece of my soul every single time he says burn it down, because every single time he gets there, it always sounds so manufactured, the way that he's saying burn it down, the way he pulls it into his promo.
That's been the topic of the week, I think, for everybody, is that line, burn it down. I don't know if you kept watching. I think you stopped watching Backstage when it was on Friday night.
I didn't watch it at all.
But Paige had a line on it where she basically was like, can we just talk about burn it down? It's like fetch. It's just not going to happen. So she just laid into, Seth Rollins and the gimmick that they just keep trying to push. It goes back to me thinking that Seth Rollins is turning into Roman Reigns, the big dog. It's my yard. Like, whatever it's going to be, whatever the catchphrase is, they lay it on so thick. And I think Seth Rollins would be fine if they let him just go off the cuff a little bit. And he's had some good promos when he just gets amped up. I mean, I can make the same argument for Reigns, but when you have to say your stupid tagline every time you're in the ring, because we got to get these hands or whatever, because we got to get the pop from the crowd, the little kids in the crowd, it's killing us, the wrestling fans that just want to hear these guys talk from, essentially the heart.
Well, so the thing with these lines that are so unique to promos, I mean, it's easy to look back at a time like the Attitude Era and say, oh, well, they had taglines all the time and they used them all the time. Yeah, but they created those off the cuff and they worked. And they, it's just not the same thing. I don't know. I mean, I would argue that, I don't know. Actually, you know what? Let's not even talk about it, because it's not worth talking about. I don't think.
Let's burn down that topic.
Yeah, let's burn it down.
But speaking of Roman Reigns, I actually, again, somebody that I really dislike. I thought he was pretty funny on SmackDown in the ring when he had the mic there for a little bit, talking to the Team Flair.
Oh, I'm sorry, the Team Flair guy. You mean the King Corbin?
Ugh.
Bend the knee,
No.
Chuck. One to go, buddy. If you're on Lesnar's side, if you're on Reigns' side, the next one's Baron Corbin. King Corbin.
You can't get on the side of STD. I'm sorry. You can't have.
When's the last time you heard somebody call him STD? That name did not stick. That name did not stick. So,
well, that's because he went to SmackDown, and
Steven just sounds a little bitter.
We're in G-rated,
and he just needs to bend the knee too. So
bend the knee.
Me and Chris are team bend the knee.
And Steven's team, Shorty G.
God, worst.
Oh my! What? That was like a mix between that was like a mix between John Cena and the Spirit Squad. I was like, what is going on?
Spirit Squad. Yes. I actually like it more thinking of it as the Spirit Squad, actually.
Well, I mean, I don't know. Let's Steven, I want to give you time to talk about it, because you've always been a big Gable fan, and you've always pushed Gable, especially
pro Shorty G.
He's very pro Shorty G. Is this working? Is this working for Shorty G?
The personality part of it, sadly, is the way he's dressing now. I don't like. They're trying to It's like they're making him look like a kid. It's more Spirit Squad, less early John Cena, but it's also kind of what they were trying to do with Mojo there for a little while with the green armbands and the track-looking suit. And I don't like it. I think the personality aspect of it's fine. Let him run with that, but there's no need in trying to make him dress like he's a 7-year-old kid going trick-or-treating.
Yeah, there is. There is, though. You know why? Because they just, screwed themselves over by turning Bailey heel. So they need somebody that the kids can dress up as, that the kids look forward to seeing.
That's true.
So they're pushing Shorty G, man.
That's what they got Bray Wyatt and the Fiend, right?
Yeah, but not all kids are into that, though. I mean, you gotta have. There's the other.
Would be.
There's the other side. Now, I've seen plenty of kids wearing the Fiend mask, but then there's the other side. The kids that don't like the Fiend stuff, and they want somebody to dress up as. Well, they're not going to dress up as Bailey anymore, so let them dress up as Shorty G. He's the new Cena.
The inspirational promos that he's trying to pull with this, be yourself, be who you are, be fine with who you are. Believe, yeah, that's a good point. It really is believe.
Tongue action.
Oh, the tongue action.
I went back and watched that tongue action, by the way.
Right?
You would go back and watch it.
Well, hey, sometimes we talk about stuff on this podcast, and I get obsessed. I'm like, okay, I have got to go back and see this because
excited. There's a lot of words that you probably shouldn't use, followed by tongue action.
Obsessed, excited, exhilarated, tongue action. Rah. Yeah, I don't know. But it was definitely very creepy.
Here's the thing. Shorty G is a great wrestler. He just has no character. And if they can find him a character, if he could find himself a character, he could legitimately be the next Kurt Angle. Like, he's that good in the ring. But Kurt Angle has something that he hasn't found yet, and that's humor. That's the ability to cut a promo, the ability to morph into these different characters, be a great heel, be a great face. I don't see that in Gable. Gable's, I don't know, other than being in a good tag team, have you ever believed any of his characters? I can't see it.
And I don't think that's something that you can teach somebody either. Like, you either have that ability or you don't. And I don't think Shorty G really has the ability to take a character to the next level, really, like Angle did, like The Rock did, like John Cena did. I don't think he has that charisma in his personality.
The more I think about it, the more it might have made more sense to let Gable win the King of the Ring and almost have like a Napoleon complex and take it into a heel Gable as this Napoleon complex. And I think that might have worked for him as a storyline. That might have worked for him as a character, but we'll see.
You're right. It would make more sense. And that's what I said. It made sense for him to win it, to give him a push. And they're doing exactly what with Baron Corbin as they've done with everything they give him Baron Corbin, which is nothing. They give him some small significant win and then nothing. He was King of the Ring. He won the Greatest Royal Rumble. No matter what he wins, it turns into nothing.
Which sucks because he's such a good heel. Like, he does such a great job. As angry as Chuck always gets when we talk about how great Baron Corbin is, that's exactly why he's a great heel.
Oh, that's the truth. I mean, you only really hate the ones that are really, good entertainers. And for as much as I hate Baron Corbin, he is a really good entertainer. He plays his part extremely well.
He's great, even in house shows too. Like, if you haven't gone to a house show for WWE where the Baron Corbin was at, and you get lucky enough to see Baron Corbin, he is vicious at house shows. It's great. And then he's this great layer of mean to the crowd, but also comical, so the crowd can laugh at him. It just works perfectly. He knows how to be that great heel.
Yeah, when I
Cesaro?
saw him at Hershey, I mean, he was, and this was before, this was a bunch of months ago, but I mean, he was perfect. He was the guy you wanted to hate, but at the same time, like, he made it, humorous what was going on. It was,
Well, Chuck, do you have these crown jewel picks ready for us to pick from?
Ugh.
I do. I do.
Well, before we lose Steven, let's
We're picking house show.
let's
That's great. Let's pick
I
a
know.
house show.
let's pick a house show.
Okay, so let's
It's a
see.
glorified
We'll do the first one is Team Hogan versus Team Flair, and we'll start off with Big Baby Jimmy.
I think that with the winning of Team Hogan on SmackDown, that I'm going to go with Team Flair. I'm going to go with the heels. I think the heel team is a lot more compelling than the face team is. There's something like, even with my boy Ali in there, I like the spots that he's taking, but I think it's more compelling for Team Flair to win. Although I really don't want there to be a Hogan Flair spot because I'm already worried about Ric Flair. So,
You're
yeah.
gonna die.
Yeah.
On to Mr. Steven.
I want the heels to win so bad, but I have this big feeling that they're gonna give it to Hogan and the big dog. He's gonna overcome the numbers and they're gonna win somehow.
Tiro.
All right. So in my I make good storyline mind, I would say the heels should win. McIntyre should get a good push because McIntyre deserves a good push right now. He looked great on Monday. He's back. But in my this is a house show mind, the faces are going to win because it's a house show and they want to send everybody home happy. So, Team Hogan.
I am going with Team Flair. I'm on the same thought process as Jimmy here with Team Hogan winning the other night. I think Team Flair is going to take this one over in Saudi Arabia.
Heel country, maybe?
Maybe. Okay, now to two crappy matches. We're gonna go Braun Strowman.
I don't care.
I know.
I already don't care about any of this.
I don't know.
I agree.
I don't remember the last time we actually cared about a crown jewel event, but hey,
Never.
this is your
Hey, we gotta
job.
do it.
All right, let's just keep picking. All right.
Braun Strowman,
Oh.
Fury. Jimmy, you're up.
Tyson Fury wins immediately with a one-punch knockout.
Wow. Okay.
I think it goes a little more than just one punch. I think it's a little bit of back and forth, but I do think Fury wins by knockout.
Fury wins. Maybe they'll let him take one bump at the end after he wins or something. I don't know. Who cares?
Yeah, I'm on the who cares train with this too, and I'm gonna go Fury as well. Just cause it's the hype machine for this match, as with the Lesnar match. But yeah, I think Fury is gonna take this one. Going to the next who cares match, we have Brock Lesnar and Cain Velasquez. Jimmy.
Well, the one thing for sure is that Brock Lesnar cannot drop his title in this match. It's just not going to happen. So that
True.
means the match has to end either with like a DQ or like a double count out. I think it would be more compelling for it to be a double count out if you can pull together the spots to allow them to make that happen. But that being said, I'm more likely to think it's going to be a DQ in the favor of Brock Lesnar as Rey Mysterio and Dominic just interfere in the match and just beat the hell out of Brock Lesnar.
Steven.
I think Cain Velasquez wins the belt, unfortunately.
Wow.
Whoa.
Shocking.
Shocking predictions by the boss.
What's the angle on that, Steven?
They're pushing him so much, it just makes more sense. They still haven't confirmed what show he's on. They just said he's signed a long deal. So they could do where he wins it and takes it to SmackDown, and The Fiend wins the Universal title and takes it to Raw, or they could do all kinds of stuff if they take the title off of Brock. It also could build more to let Brock be a monster because now he's on the warpath to get his belt back, and they can let him just destroy people backstage more. And I don't know, it just makes more sense with how they've been doing things to take it from Brock.
Do you think Brock blades under his other eye?
I don't think he blades. I
No.
think I think he takes an elbow. I think he kind of how he opened up Randy Orton. I think he tells Cain Velasquez to go ahead and open him up. Now, probably not under his eye. I'll probably do it on his forehead or on top of his head or something. That being said, I hate not going first. So Jimmy's on the right track, I think.
I'm sorry.
It's all right. It's all right. I got to get used to that every once in a while. I think Jimmy's on the right track with the not. I don't think he's going to drop it. I think it's going to be some kind of count out DQ. I mean, I would love for them to shock me with something like Steven's saying, but I don't expect it at Crown Jewel. I expect it to be a non-finish. You know, maybe they do a no finish because that's the new trend in WWE, no finishing matches. So if they do have to finish it, I actually think Cain Velasquez wins by DQ. Maybe Brock just keeps beating the hell out of him and won't stop.
Well, I'm just going to go with a pure Lesnar win. I don't know why. I get the whole... I was going no contest in both the Braun and Lesnar matches all week. And then I was like, well, no, we already had one bad no contest match at the last pay-per-view. So I'm just going to go with, Lesnar beats the crap out of him and just gets the pin. So now we're on to the hometown boy, kind of Mansoor versus Cesaro. Jimmy.
Easiest match to pick ever. Mansoor's going to win, period.
Yeah, I agree. But I think after the match, Cesaro beats him down a little bit to try to get some of that heat. But other than that, yeah, Cesaro loses.
When's the last time Cesaro won a match? Like the poor guy's just going out there, like him and Samoa Joe just go out there and lose and just put other guys over. And they're probably the two top performers in the ring. It just drives me crazy. I got to pick the hometown boy, I guess. But I'm in my, if I have a secondary pick, I'm picking Cesaro by myself because I want Cesaro to win like really bad. But if I'm picking with my, hey, you're an idiot, pick the right winner, I'm picking the hometown kid.
Yeah, the lovable loser Cesaro will once again lose this match. So yeah, I'm going with Mansoor.
I don't like his new gear. I don't like Cesaro's new gear. I liked his gear. I liked his last gear. Like I like his new entrance, but this weird wearing these weird pants and regular Keds shoes or something like that. I don't get what he's supposed to be.
He's supposed to be like your next door neighbor going out for a run in the morning or.
Dude, who's your next door neighbor?
I don't know. I'm thinking about your next door neighbor, not my next door neighbor.
John doesn't look like that. I'm gonna look at him later and say, I mean, he's bald, but man, all bald guys don't look the same. That's racist.
That's true. I don't know if it's racist, but it's somethingist. Okay. Now for the best tag team in the world match, tag team turmoil. Holy crap.
Terrible.
We got the New Day versus the Viking Raiders versus Heavy Machinery versus Lucha House Party versus Hawkins and Ryder versus the Revival versus the OC versus Ziggler and Rude versus the B team.
Is this a gauntlet match? Is that what I found? Is that what they talked about this week? Is it a gauntlet or is it like a battle royal?
It just says tag team turmoil, so I'm guessing they start off with 2
Gauntlet.
Whoever loses, another one comes in, I guess.
Yeah, I think that's the stipulation I heard. Okay, sorry.
No worries. I mean, we got to know how the matches are
Yeah.
Scripted. So Jimmy, what you
Obviously, this match, especially if it's a gauntlet kind of format, is very, very difficult to pick. But I would say what I would want to happen is I would want the OC to win. So I'm going to say the OC wins.
Nope. It's going to be your boys, the New Day.
I'm throwing a little curveball at this house show. I say the Usos come back and win this whole damn thing.
What?
I'd be willing to throw a curveball too, actually, maybe, and say that
No, you went first. Can't make a new pick.
That maybe AOP would come back. I was thinking that, but I'm gonna stick with the OC because I don't necessarily believe that there will be a curveball, but. Just for the record, I have been kind of thinking all week that maybe AOP would come back and be the winners.
Man, I do like that AOP curveball there. I mean, it would really be a testament to what they've been throwing out in the promos and everything. But you'd have to have them come out early somehow, like beat up the B team. And then be one of the first to come out and then just kind of roll through everybody and then have the last 2 teams be like them and the Viking Raiders or them and the Revival, something like that. But anyway, I digress. For pure pop, I'm going to go against my boys, the Viking Raiders, and I'm going to choose and go with Steven on this one with the New Day.
Is there any more matches?
Is there any?
Yes,
more matches? Okay.
there are 3 more matches actually.
Wow.
Oh,
Here
you
we
got to
go.
be kidding me.
Nope. We'll go to the 20-man battle royal. I didn't see who is actually in it yet, so I don't even know if they've come out with it. So I don't know if we can per se pick this one.
I could pick it. Go ahead.
Okay, go, James. You're up first.
I mean, who's left though? I'm confused because there's so many people who don't. I don't know. There's I don't know. I can't even imagine that they would have a 20-man battle royal. Like, who's left? I mean, with all those people that are either out or refuse to go to Saudi Arabia, like, I don't even know that I can make a good guess on this. I don't know. I'm gonna, you know what? Steven did have to leave, so I'm just gonna pass this one to Chris initially, and let me think about it for a second.
All right. So the most obvious thing to me, and this might be short-sighted because I don't know if he's gonna be, like you said, you make a good point. Who is or isn't going to Saudi Arabia? KO should win the battle royal. Now, is he going to Saudi Arabia? Is he one of the ones refusing to go?
I don't know if he's maybe. Yeah, maybe. Maybe he doesn't go to Saudi Arabia.
Yeah. So here's the thing.
There's
It
a
might
bunch
not
of
work,
them that don't.
obviously. Yeah, it might not work but the most obvious storyline right now is KO wins it, and KO faces AJ Styles later in the night for the United States title, and honestly wins it from AJ Styles because it would be a good storyline going forward.
Yeah, I don't even know. I just went and looked up at WWE.com, and they don't even, all it says 20-man battle royal, winner faces AJ Styles for the US championship. They got no one on anything that says who might be in it. I mean, yeah, you guys are right. Who else is left?
Cedric Alexander? There you go. I'll pick Cedric Alexander.
There you go.
I know it's like I don't know. The only other one that I think, well, no, but it can't really be a heel. It needs to be a face, I would think, if it's going against AJ Styles. So Cedric Alexander makes sense to me. That'll be my pick.
I got to pull back on KO. I just looked it up, and KO didn't go to the last crown jewel. So he's probably not going to this one either. So now I have no idea who the frick's going to win.
Yeah.
Well, it's got to be a
'Cause
baby
like-
face, right? Or closer to a baby face. Maybe not full baby face, but
Maybe an NXT guy. Maybe they slide in an NXT guy that we haven't seen.
Velveteen Dream.
Aleister Black.
That's a good one.
Aleister Black. I'm going Aleister Black.
Okay.
We're helping work each other through this. How about you, Chuckles?
Man, I don't even know. I like it. It's so hard because between who's actually going to go over there, who wants to travel to Saudi Arabia, who's not in matches before, but like, I mean, who knows? I mean, you could have guys that in the Team Hogan, Team Flair thing could pop up in it possibly. I mean, they could do a 2-match night.
It could be like somebody like Pete Dunne.
That'd actually be a 3-match night if they end up winning too.
Yeah, true.
Oh, does that
True.
match that night?
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's that night.
So far, it's that night. Now I don't know if they'll actually pull that. They might actually move it to Monday or something.
If
We'll
it
see.
is that
But
night, it very well could be local talent. It could be somebody that you're trying
Somebody
to
else,
pass
yeah.
off, like, I don't know, like a Jinder Mahal or something like that.
Oh, Jinder Mahal. I forgot about him. He's back and he got drafted too.
And he wasn't he
As a face,
backstage?
though? Ugh.
Wasn't he backstage earlier this week or something?
I don't know. I wasn't backstage. Were you?
No, like he was in like a shut up, you idiot. Damn. I don't know. I'm just gonna pick that. I'm gonna pick Jinder Mahal just because you brought his name up and it sounds good.
I
It'd
think
be an
we did
interesting
a
spot. It'd be an interesting spot for Shane O'Mac also.
yeah. I
I
was
don't
thinking
know.
about Shane O'Mac, but the problem is
Yeah.
Shane O'Mac's a heel. I mean, that's so like that super heel versus super heel. Does that really make
And
sense?
we got rid of him.
He got fired from SmackDown, but he can come back to Raw, I guess.
got
I
rid
don't
of
know.
him
No, but
for
the
a little
KO's
while.
over there too. I don't know. Yeah, I don't want that to happen.
Anyway, so going on to the next, we don't even know what'll happen match. We'll say AJ Styles versus your winner from the Battle Royal for the U.S. Championship. James, AJ versus Seth.
I would choose Cedric Alexander. Actually, I would say that is their opportunity to give the Saudi Arabia crowd something that actually still works in normal WWE.
That works. Tiro, AJ versus Aleister Black.
Yeah, I agree with Jimmy. This is the one, like, here you go. A title changed over there, but this is it. This is all you're gonna get. You're gonna get a mid-card title. So Aleister Black.
And I'm gonna go the other way on my Jinder Mahal pick. I'm gonna pick AJ keeps it, and yeah, we get rid of those two BS matches of the other two BS matches.
I have
along with
always,
the
by
BS
the way,
pay-per-view.
always wanted Jinder Mahal to win the U.S. Title. I thought he would be a
That makes
great.
all the sense. In the
Oh
world,
my
dude.
God, he'd be so obnoxious.
Yeah, well, he was obnoxious when he was the heavyweight. When he was the champ.
Yeah, but he was never like, I think main card like full board champion material, but like mid card champion, I could see it.
Yeah. Okay. And for the last match of the night in the
Do I have to pick
crappy
this?
pay-per-view, we have the Seth Rollins versus The Fiend. Steven already picked The Fiend / Bray Wyatt to win. James, who you got?
So they say there has to be a finish, right? Like there has to be a finish.
Correct.
So I'm still trying to find a finish where he doesn't get the title, though. I mean, what type of a? So this is what is the exact stipulation of this match? Is it just like a no DQ? I mean, it's got to be a no DQ match, right? And if it's not,
Hold on, I'm going back to it now.
golly day, we already did this once. Why are we doing it again? It's just like you messed
Okay,
it up royally the
so
first time.
Officially, it is a falls count anywhere match, and the match cannot be stopped for any reason.
Okay, so but if it's a falls count anywhere match, that doesn't stop them from having a double count out. So double count out.
You can't do a count out in a false
No,
count anywhere.
Okay, well then
It would
well,
have
I'm
to
not
be. It would have to be both people would be reckoned like incapable of like moving to do it, which would be essentially another like no finish. Like neither party could continue the match because they were both just destroyed.
Well, then I guess I've got to go with Bray. I think this is. I'm gonna go with Bray, and I'm gonna maybe say that this is one of those cases where they don't even say that this match means anything in the WWE after it happens in Saudi Arabia. And maybe for that matter, maybe Seth Rollins should win. If it's just not going to matter. But I don't think it's smart to have Seth Rollins win, so I'm going to go with Bray.
You know, I've honestly forgot that this match was even on the card as we talked about this. That's how bad this match is. That's how bad this storyline has gone. Like, I just totally forgot that this was even happening. And that must finish thing is just they're painting themselves into a corner where they have to put one guy over and put the other guy down. And I don't like the idea of Bray Wyatt holding the belt. He shouldn't want it. He's never talked about it. He should continue to not talk about it. It's about causing terror, the Fiend. It's not about winning the title.
Well, I guess you could have him win it and then immediately, like, it's just up in the air. Whoever wants it can go after it type of a deal. He just never takes it.
Just lay it down in the ring and walk away.
Yeah, I mean,
I gotta believe Seth retains somehow. I don't know. They've painted themselves into a corner with how this match is gonna finish. So unless Seth, like old school WWE gimmicks, puts him under like a forklift or something to be able to pin him, because you can't pin the Fiend. I don't know how they're gonna make this finish believable, but I gotta imagine Seth retains somehow.
Yeah, it's a really weird predicament that, the WWE has done with Bray Wyatt. I mean, even on backstage, I think Christian was like, you can't have the Fiend like want the title right now. And I think like he legit said that almost word for word. Like just like you said, Tiro, he doesn't want the title. He never talks about the title. He doesn't want to be the champion. He's just there to get revenge and mess with people and this and that. I mean, now Christian picked Bray to win anyway on WWE backstage. I just don't know. I mean, I want it to go to like another no contest, but then it's like you have a whole thing about like, dude, why are we even doing this storyline in the first place if we're gonna have two matches between these two guys go both to two no contests? And then do you have, Bray the Fiend back away from Rollins for a little while? I mean, they're on separate show. The whole thing is completely messed up. It's so stupid. I'm just gonna pick Seth because it's the only thing that no.
that immediate turn. He started saying it. Says, actually, no, that doesn't make any sense.
I'm gonna go no. I'm going no finish because both guys are incapacitated. Like they're done. They can't wrestle anymore. They're both like knocked out. No finish. That's what I'm going with. It's the only thing that makes sense.
And you know what? You can pull that finish off in Saudi Arabia because you don't have the passionate crowd that you have in the United States, like in a Chicago or a Philly. I don't think the crowd really care. Like they would probably boo a little bit, but it would be nowhere near the reaction you get over here in the States.
They're just excited that they're getting all these guys to come over and wrestle in front of them.
Yeah, I don't know, man. I like the gimmick that I want to see is they just disappear. Like Bray just takes him someplace. Like the lights go out or something and the crazy music goes and then they're just not there anymore and no one knows. Like that's the no finish I want. Like let's just go into supernatural world at this point with Bray.
That
would be
almost
awesome.
From a fan standpoint, almost as bad though.
Yeah. And the other thing is didn't they say that Bray was going to be on with The Miz on Friday?
Yeah.
So he can't be live. I mean, there's no way.
Mr. Rogers.
Yeah, I mean,
but to Chuck's point, he's got to fly all the way back from Saudi Arabia.
Yeah, so there's no way he's going to be live. So I mean, what to Chris's point? I mean that would be a way to save this whole thing. That somehow the lights go out, they both disappear, the crazy fiend light show goes on, they're gone. You don't know what happens. I don't think this match is the last match of the night though, because then it would be like, I mean, then you're just letting the crappy pay-per-view off on an even worse ending.
You should open it. You should open with this match.
Yeah. And then like all of a sudden on Friday via, the TV screen, Miz is talking to the Titantron. All of a sudden Bray shows up and he just has a beaten down Seth, like picks him up by his hair and is like, yeah, I got you. I got you here. And like, the Miz is just like, whoa, Bray, what's going on? Like, what are you doing? And they play it off like that.
He should just be holding Seth's decapitated head.
Oh God.
Well, I don't know if you can do that.
That's
Well, we're on SmackDown, Christopher. This is PG.
Oh, okay. Sorry, I thought it was Raw. My bad. I thought we were on AEW or something. My bad.
But I mean, I think that whole thing would work if they did something like that. Saudi Arabia is not going to care that they didn't get a finish to the match. They're going to be happy enough with the fact that they saw the champion and the biggest name right now in WWE coming over to see them and everything. So who knows? Well, that's it. Crown Jewel's over. We don't give a shit about you.
Turn it off. Yeah. Shut it down.
Shut it down. Let's talk about a good show this week, or one of the two good shows this week. Let's talk about either NXT or AEW.
Jimmy's been chomping at the bit, so let's go to AEW first because we've given WWE a lot of love on this podcast. We need to give AEW some love now. Jimmy, I'll let you take it away.
Agreed.
Because Jimmy is the bald monkey's counterpart that will always give you that AEW push. So I want to hear the AEW push for the week.
Well, my AEW thing is more of a complaint, but now I've made it.
Come on, we just set you up.
Terrible setup.
I've made it tricky for myself though, because I've gone and I've looked at their official roster again, and I have to backtrack and say, you know what? For men's wrestling, for what they have as their official roster, they actually do a pretty good job of showing everybody. The women, though.
The women is terrible, but yeah, I think you're right, because I think if you actually look at the roster, there's guys on there that are just jobbers. There's guys that don't need the push as much as these other characters that we're learning right now.
Well, no, but so here, let me bring it up real quick so I can list out their men, what they have listed as their men's roster, and tell me who you haven't seen enough. There's maybe one person, I think, on the entire
Sean
list.
Spears.
Sure. But so Adam Page, Angelico, Brandon Cutler, Chris Jericho, Christopher Daniels, Chuck Taylor, Sema, Cody, Darby Allin,
Chuck
Dustin-
Taylor, the shoe guy.
Yeah, he's part of the
guy,
best
yeah.
friends. Yeah. Dustin Rhodes, Evil Uno, Phoenix, Frankie Kazarian, Isaiah Cassidy, Jack Evans, Jack Hager, Jimmy Havoc, Joey Janela, John Moxley, Jungle Boy, Kenny Omega, Kip Saban, there's one, Luchasaurus, Marco Stunt, Mark Quinn, Matt Jackson, Michael Nakazawa. There's another one. MJF, Nick Jackson, Orange Cassidy, Ortiz, Pac, Pentagon Jr., Peter Avalon, Sammy Guevara, Santana, Scorpio Sky, Sean Spears, Sonny Kiss, Stu Grayson, and Trent. Or Trent's the other guy from Best Friends. Honestly, when I read that whole roster, I'm like, with the exception of maybe 3 guys, they've actually rotated through them okay.
It's not a very big roster, and
It's not a very big roster, yeah. Now, the women, on the other hand, okay, here's the women's roster. Allie, Awesome Kong, Bea Priestley, Brandy Rhodes, Britt Baker, Emi Sakura, Hakira Shida, Leva Bates, Nyla Rose, Penelope Ford, Riho, Sadie Gibbs, and Yuka Sakazaki. There are at least 5 women on that list that I just have not seen on AEW.
Yeah, the women's division in AEW is not good. It's not good, and that's not because of the talent as much. I mean, yes, they don't have as good talent as WWE does, but it's also because they're not putting together good storylines. They're not giving them TV time. Again, one match. We got Britt Baker, in her hometown, just doing a squash match essentially. It's not good.
Well, it's interesting because this is where the records help me out, because Britt Baker's record is 4-2. Sadie Gibbs' record is 0-1. Penelope Ford 0-2. Yuka Sakazaki 0-2. Like, they haven't had many matches. Riho's record 6-1. Like, some of them have had a ton of matches. Some of them
Awesome
have had
Kong,
like
0-1.
Well, I don't like Awesome Kong personally, but that's neither here nor there.
I don't like the records. I'm
just saying that the records are helping me show you that there are people they're just not using.
Well, it's giving you data. Yeah, it's giving you data that they're not using them. But that being said, I don't like this record thing. Like, I understand what they were trying to do. You're not doing it. You maybe I'll give you more time, but at this point, just stop talking about the records and stop having these dark matches essentially that don't count towards the record. Then what's the point of having the records if you're going to do matches that don't count?
Well,
just get rid of the records.
Well, do the dark matches not count towards the record, or does the one
specific matches?
The one, because it was unsanctioned.
Two unsanctioned matches now they've had. They've had 2 unsanctioned matches that don't count, which leads me to believe there's going to be more unsanctioned matches, which leads me to believe that I don't care about the records if you're going to have these unsanctioned matches.
Now, all of that being said, AEW was great this week. NXT was great this week. And Raw was
great.
Raw was I'll say Raw was better than average for the most part, and SmackDown really flippin' sucked. And so I know I had mentioned this to you earlier in the week. It's like I'm confused and I know I feel like I ask this question all the time. What is the disconnect, WWE? The storytelling is so good on NXT. What is your excuse for your main shows?
It's not the wrestlers. It's got to be the writers at this point.
Why are the writers
whoever's making the last call? Whoever's making the last call as to what to put on TV just seems like it's the wrong call.
Because you look at both shows, each of them had a non-wrestling segment that was just out of this world, right? For NXT, it was that Balor heel turn. And for AEW, it was that very NWO-ish, Cody's going to get interviewed and he keeps getting interrupted from the boxes, and then he pulls out a group of people and they all go attack him. Like that. I mean, both segments worked great on both shows.
That was very WCW esque, though,
I
right?
was thinking the
Just, like,
same
Sure.
thing.
Well, there's a lot of
pulling
things that
random
are
people out.
WCW esque, but the thing is, they might do something and you'll say, well, it's WWE esque, or Impact esque, or TNA esque. It's like we always say. I mean, feels like there's no
Everybody's stealing.
super original ideas. The funny thing to me, though, I had mentioned like Kevin Nash apparently was very critical about that segment, and I didn't read into that article, but I was just assuming that he felt it was very NWO and he felt it was kind of stealing. But it's funny to me how people only get annoyed at the co-opting of these storylines when they work. If it didn't work, Kevin Nash would probably never say a damn thing about it. But because it worked so well, he aired his frustrations about it.
See, but I think there's a reason they air frustration sometimes about these things. I think it actually makes something even more over. I think they're airing frustrations to point out, hey, go back and watch what we did. This is good. That was good. I don't know if they're doing it on purpose or if it's just backfiring. But anytime these guys complain about something, I go watch the original. I go watch the new version of it. And I'm like, yeah, it worked, and I enjoy it. So I don't know if it's actually helping them by complaining that things are being repeated.
Yeah. In the same vein, I would say that both shows had excellent matches. You had that really strong triple threat match between Strong, Lee, and go ahead and say his name, Chuck.
Dominic Dijakovic.
There you go.
Feast your eyes. Feed me more.
Also, very scary spot in that match.
Keith Lee almost died.
Yes, it was. That was
Which one?
rough. The turnbuckle spot.
The turnbuckle suplex where he held him for a second, and
Oh, man.
Keith Lee did a great job redirecting the guys into the ring and saving them, but almost folding himself in half in between the ropes. It was one of those like, oh, that looked terrible, and it looked so good because it was so terrible.
Yeah.
Whose fault was that? Dijakovic looked like he tried to save it for a second.
I don't know if it was anybody's fault. I think it's a really tough spot if you think about it. I mean, Dijakovic
Yeah.
had to hold Strong up like he was holding a suplex, and Keith Lee had to hold two men up. It was essentially, it should have held for probably an extra second or two, but I think Keith Lee lost his balance, or the balance of two men on top of him doing something else just lost everyone's balance. But they did a good job saving it. Keith Lee did a good job not letting anybody get hurt and, keeping himself safe by folding himself in between the ropes.
Yeah,
Keith Lee's amazing.
For something that could have gone way wrong, it looked, even though like you knew it wasn't supposed to happen that way, it looked so good watching it because he just sold that like whole thing by falling through the ropes.
Sure.
Match of the week. I told you guys it was going to be the match of the week, and it was.
I think the finish was good in that match. It made sense. I think Keith Lee again came out looking strong. I think he's still the shining star of that feud. Like, he's still the one that's going to come out of it. It's amazing to me that they can have such a methodical match with these two big guys, yet put so many big spots into it that you're constantly like freaking out as you're watching the match. But it's so slow. If you really go back and watch the match, it is so slow, like painfully slow sometimes, but you're still amped up the entire time. Like a really well done, put together match that those two continually do. How many times have they done it now? 5 times they've been in a match together.
I really do think they're going to be a tag team at some point.
That's what I thought they were coming to at the end when they were kind of working.
But I don't want it. Like, I don't need that. I don't need another big tag team like that. It's just,
why?
I want
Why
them
not?
to be singles guys.
But are they going to have the same chemistry with other people?
I think so. I think Keith Lee will. I am a big Keith Lee fan. I'm in. I'm all in on him. I think he gets a huge push. I think he can be a title holder real soon. I think he could put together a match with just about anybody. He's just that athletic.
Keith Lee seems like he could work with just about anybody, no matter how big they are, no matter how small they are, no matter how well, we think they can wrestle. He seems like one of those guys that just could fit with anybody you put him with.
Yeah.
The other, Dijakovic, I think I got it right. Dijakovic, I think, is the one that I'm like, it could work. It could be another freaking feed me more. He's on the fence for me. Like, he's still good, but I think Keith Lee makes those matches.
I think pivoting over to AEW, we've had some debates about them being tag team centric sometimes, but I thought this was the first episode that they've had where they really spotlighted tag team wrestling because, with the exception, I think they had 3 tag team matches, and I thought all 3 of them, were pretty good. Maybe a tiny bit sloppy at times, like with SCU, Dark Order was a little bit sloppy, and maybe a couple sloppy bits with Young Bucks versus Best Friends, but I think all 3 of those matches, and that third match being the Lucha Brothers versus Private Party, I thought they were all good matches.
They were good, but I'm starting. So the Lucha Brothers Private Party, a lot of good spots. It was a fun match, and I've been going back and forth in my head about this because we talked about it offline during the week. But is it starting to get too choreographed, some of these matches with maybe not so much Private Party because they're still newish, but maybe the Lucha Brothers? Like, does it just seem like most of their match is choreographed except for a couple of big spots? And it's like, I want to be a little more surprised by how the match is going to go and what kind of match they're putting together. And at some point, can you keep doing these big spots? Can you go bigger and bigger and bigger? Or are you going to run out of big to be able to do? I say that, and I'll go to the Young Bucks, which I don't think this about. The Young Bucks, to me, I never get bored with their matches. I'm always amazed at what they're able to do. They could do the same thing over and over again sometimes, and I'm still amazed by it, where I'm just not seeing that with the Lucha Brothers right now.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I think you definitely run the risk of that with Private Party in particular because they're pretty new, and I believe that their moveset is a little bit smaller than we think it is. In regards to the Lucha Brothers, I don't know that I feel that way. I mean, it's kind of like that argument of like, here's my response to that. You know how there's always been that talk of whether the Revival, whenever their contract ends, will go to AEW. AEW needs a tag team like the Revival to offset the tag team wrestling that they have in there. The one thing that they don't have is a tag team wrestling pair that's more classical wrestling.
Old school, yeah.
Yeah, and they could definitely use that sometimes to offset, because I would actually even argue, if you watch the dark match of Joey Janela versus Kenny Omega, it very much was one thing. And then I felt like their other match had almost a different vibe to it. Their official match. And it was a good thing, because it was kind of like, okay, in the dark match, we're showing what everybody already knows about Joey Janela. Kenny Omega, there's no questioning him, right? He's just really good no matter what. But with Joey Janela in the dark match, it's like, okay, well, can Joey Janela actually wrestle, or is he just really good at taking really crazy bumps? And I think that the sanctioned official match this week did a little bit better of a job of saying, no, Joey Janela can wrestle. He can definitely wrestle. And so I think it's important that you start defining that with each of your wrestlers and each of your tag teams. Like, what happens if a group like Private Party goes in and... Well, the problem is that they're kind of tied to their high-flying antics, right? But what
Which
happens?
is everyone.
Yeah, well, which is most of them, I would say.
Name one that's not. I mean, I'm looking at the list
Well,
from this week, and
I-
it's like every single tag team's got some kind of like, whoa, death-defying,
yeah,
high-flying moves in there.
at least one person, right? Because I would say the problem with Luchasaurus getting hurt is even though he does the occasional crazy spot, he very much has his own little style. So I would say Jungle Express there, when it's Jungle Boy and Luchasaurus, is like half high flying antics and half like, Luchasaurus brings a little bit more to it than just the high flying thing because he's a big guy, so you can do some of those big guy spots. Yeah, but like, I mean, you look at the Lucha Brothers, they can pivot into more what I'll call Pentagon type wrestling, because I feel like Pentagon has lost a little bit of like maybe what he had as a singles wrestler, where it's not as important for him to do all these high crazy spots. His style of wrestling isn't the Rey Fenix style of wrestling necessarily. He can definitely pivot to more classical but a little hardcore-ish type of wrestling. And I think it's important for them to do that at some point. SCU, they're a combination of a lot of different things. So I think that they're one of the ones that are a little bit more successful at it.
Yeah, it's just I'm thinking back at a lot of these tag matches, and I'm like, how many matches had like a move set where there was like a suplex and a couple of like elbow drops or anything? Like
SCU
I don't
match,
know that I've seen that a lot, but not a lot, right?
Yeah.
Like I haven't seen a lot of matches mixing that into the rhythm.
I think it's not even Scorpio Sky. It's like Christopher Daniels and Frankie Kazarian. They definitely blend in a lot of old school wrestling along with some spots as well. And I think that the Dark Order are kind of the same way too. I don't know that they're so like high flying. They introduce a little bit more than just that into it.
They were just a waste to me. Like you bring these guys out, they're supposed to be this like crazy weird tag team with all the creepers, and they get a bye in the tournament, and they end up just losing to SCU because you're building this SCU versus Lucha Brothers storyline. I feel like you just kind of wasted the Dark Order a little bit.
It's early though, so they still have time to salvage anything. I'm not like, I don't think it's as egregious of thing because it hasn't really necessarily been that long. So yeah, they got a bye, and maybe those were the original plans. They pivoted on the plans, but I don't know that they, it wasn't like a total drop of the plans either. I think it's it's that unexpected factor, right?
But how do you do this at a regular Dynamite show? Like they're not even doing it at their Full Gear pay-per-view. They're doing the title match next week, right?
Well, you could have some form of a
no finish
that's just like,
Oh, that thing in wrestling that everybody loves, the no finish? That's a good idea.
Well, no, I mean, like, well, yeah, but because there is, I mean, shit, you could have the Dark Order be the whole reason for that. I don't necessarily see, it always comes back to, like, your finish is not as important as your story. So as long as the story feels right, I don't know that the finish is as big of a deal. And that's the problem that they had in WWE with Seth Rollins and The Fiend, is that not only was the finish bad, but they put the story into a corner and they had no way out. So there was no way of them winning that moment. Well, there was a few outs, but they didn't take any of them. And so my argument would be, like, a no finish isn't a big deal. A DQ isn't a big deal. A double count isn't a big deal as long as it fits the story and it makes the story more compelling. And that's what they don't do enough in these different promotions.
But what would the reason be for bringing the Dark Order back into like the SCU Lucha Brothers match next?
Well, I don't. I mean, I. Even though I threw that out, I don't necessarily. I haven't had time to really flesh that idea out. It was just me throwing something out. There almost could be more of an argument for it. They say that you can't have your third member down at the ring for those matches. So if you have Scorpio Sky and Frankie Kazarian going against the Lucha Brothers, and for whatever reason, Christopher Daniels interferes, but maybe they come back and say, but we're not going to have the title just be given to somebody based on a DQ or something like that. I don't know. I'd have to flesh out the ideas a little bit in my head, but I don't know. I mean, I don't think that it's going to get pushed back, because I think the general idea is that you're going to try to set up some match for whoever wins at Full Gear, and it might just be a rematch.
Yeah, and they're bringing in the Rock and Roll Express to give out the AEW tag team titles next.
Yeah. So I doubt they're going to push it off because of that. I would just expect to see whoever wins have a match, in that they've got then, a week or 2 weeks to build that match up. And that AEW show that me and you are going to, Chris, is going to be part of, building that storyline.
I could see the Lucha Brothers going full heel and dropping the Rock and Roll Express next week.
Yeah.
I mean, that would be a good way to push them even further into that heel character.
Sure. So, yeah. They have a little bit of a controversial finish in the Moxley-Pac thing, and there's a lot more to it. Like, so they had a draw based on TV time running out, but it was not actually supposed to end that way, from what I understand. The way that it was supposed to end was Kenny Omega was supposed to get himself involved in that match, and then Hangman Page was supposed to get himself involved in that match, and then just reamp the whole, hey, Moxley's fighting Omega, but now Pac is also fighting Hangman Page at Full Gear.
Did you see anything about why Omega didn't come down there?
I'd heard that he missed his cue.
Okay, because I actually was going to bring that up next about that, but I couldn't find really anywhere about it saying why he didn't get down there and everything. And then of course, like AEW came out and said they've reprimanded Jon Moxley for hitting the referee Turner with the paradigm shift and everything. And they're playing off of what WWE did to Rusev with him getting quote unquote arrested at the restaurant and all this stuff.
So I was thinking about an angle for Tessa Blanchard to enter AEW. And
she is a free agent.
And
almost,
I had mentioned half of this to Chris. And the half of it that I had mentioned to him was, I think it is incredibly important that at some point Chris Jericho lays out Aubrey Edwards, like just knocks her out. Because he's always the one that's like getting up in her face, and then she like always pushes him back. And so I'm thinking it'd be cool to have a storyline where he ends up knocking her out. And I mean, you're talking crazy, crazy heat, but it's to build the crazy pop of where it's like Aubrey Edwards wants, justice, but she's not a wrestler. So she's not going to wrestle, but she's going to have somebody wrestle in her stead. And out comes Tessa Blanchard to wrestle Chris Jericho. I think that would be a pretty over gimmick in AEW.
I just don't see. I like the idea. I just don't see Tessa leaving Impact. I think she's set to be the next champion over there. I think they're gonna try to be forward thinking, and I think she's gonna finally take it and beat Callahan for the title. But I don't know if that, we got to get there first, obviously. But she's got to sign a contract. But I think she needs to stay where she's at. Stay with the team that's built you up. Stay with the team that allowed you to be who you wanted to be. Because AEW, yes, I agree, is the one place she could still be who she wants to be. But I think Impact right now gives her the absolute freedom to be the character that she's built for this long.
Sure. I get that. What I'm looking at is from a change standpoint. When you talk about like intergender wrestling being a consistent thing in different companies, the easiest way to do a full shift across most companies is for her to go to AEW. And the reason I say that is because if she goes to WWE, it's just not going to happen. She's not going to intergender wrestle. And if it does happen, it's going to take a long time.
I would be floored if she went to WWE. I don't see it happening.
If she went to AEW, though, I think the intergender wrestling thing would happen fairly quickly. And I think she would be the most over women's wrestler in AEW. And she would be very popular. And it might force WWE's hand to do some intergender wrestling. Versus if she just went to WWE, it just wouldn't happen. And if she stays in Impact, they don't care because it's Impact. They don't even think about Impact. So I think that affects change more than anything, her going to AEW and doing intergender wrestling there. Because they view AEW as a threat.
And her possibly going to AEW, I mean, you also have the pull of, I mean, who is currently in AEW that is pretty darn close to Tully.
Well, I don't know that she's got the best. She doesn't really have the best relationship with her family, though. But that's neither here nor there.
Yeah.
And I don't think that she would want Tully to have anything to do with her in AEW.
Correct. I agree. But, I mean, it's still, a familiar face.
So if you'll stand to listen to me a little longer, I've got another one. This is another one, and I brought this up to Chris the other day. And so
you want to see the
Austin
rest
Creed.
of Drew Gulak's PowerPoint. I knew it.
I would love to. Are you kidding me? 345, I would love to see that PowerPoint. I think it would be great. It's always a shame that he needs to be able to get through like 5 or 6 slides when he does that instead of just the one.
Sorry. I didn't mean to interrupt you.
So Xavier Woods, Austin Creed, had a really bad Achilles injury the other day, and he's going to be out for almost a year. So my thought behind that is there has never been a more perfect time. We were talking about the Kofi heel turn or whatever. And I thought to myself, there's never been a better time for a heel turn. Like this is the moment because of him being out for a year. So I was thinking what I pitched to Chris was this. You have Kofi Kingston, and now this is before Friday. This is before they even announced this match. So I'm just got to put that out there. You have Big E and Kofi be in a tag team match against some set of heels. And that actually happened. And what you need to do is you need to have Kofi be the one who loses the match. Again, that's what happened.
Actually happened.
Yeah. Part 2 now is that you have a frustrated Kofi in the back that he, what contributed to the loss of, the tag team match maybe on. The problem is that Crown Jewel's going to make this a little bit rough, but I guess you can push it off another week. Maybe even in Crown Jewel they lose and it's Kofi's fault that they lose or something like that. But you have Big E have a singles match now. And he's going out there and he's facing somebody. Maybe he's facing Ziggler, maybe he's facing Rude, maybe he's facing somebody from the Revival. It doesn't matter. Again, just a heel. And these heels, they start to taunt Kofi because after he's dropped the belt, he's just no good. He's just losing all the time. Kofi gets frustrated, interferes, and causes Big E to then lose this match. And Big E's like, what the heck, man? What's going on? And you just see Kofi getting more and more agitated every single time that you see him on camera. It's building, it's coming. So then you have one more tag team match, and it's the same deal where Kofi kind of goes off the rails after getting frustrated, and he again gets pinned or causes the loss of the match. And then Big E again is like, trying to be supportive, like, man, what's going on with you? What's going on with you? And you see Kofi just kind of start to lose it in the ring, and you're thinking, here it comes, and then Big E grabs him and just slams him and just starts beating the absolute hell out of him. Yes, let's have a heel turn, but it's a better time for a Big E heel turn. And the reason I say that is because with Xavier Woods being out for a year, you can run a storyline where Big E absolutely destroys Kofi, and then you're doing the rebuilding of Kofi away from Big E, who is then starting his terror run through the WWE as a singles wrestler. And then when Xavier Woods comes back, it's the, okay, we're going to both be in a match against Big E. And the resolution of that match is that they both beat the hell out of Big E, but when it's time to leave the ring, they both extend their hands to him and then bring the New Day back in. So you're literally breaking up the New Day for a year so that you can have the huge pop of bringing them back together when Xavier Woods comes back healthy. Now, I also said that what I expect the WWE to do is to just run them as a tag team, and that's it. And I wouldn't be surprised if they do that. But it was interesting that I literally came in and I pitched this idea to Chris, and then like a few hours later, he shows me a post by WWE or by Fox that says, oh, look, it's going to be Big E and Kofi versus Ziggler and Rude. And I'm like, okay, that's interesting. And then they have the match, and then Kofi loses it like abruptly in a roll-up.
Yep. It was interesting because I'm like, here we are again, being eavesdropped on, but it's I think it's the right time, man. I think you're onto it because we're not talking about breaking them up permanently because they just can't. You can't. They sell too much. They're too over. But for a temporary time, and this to be the perfect timing with Xavier out, it makes all the sense in the world. I mean, it would be a great spot. It'd be a great storyline for a year. It just, will they actually do it finally? And I know who's going to be pitching it. It's not going to be WWE. It's going to be Kofi and Big E and even Xavier. They would pitch this. They would be the ones to say, listen, this is the time. This is the time and we can make it work.
Yeah. And you have a chance to go to step 2 of your thought process here, James, with this coming Friday is going to be the Revival defending their titles against Kofi and Big E again. So you have another chance to have Kofi, lose the match and everything.
Is that this Friday?
2 nights in a row. Yeah, it's 2 nights in a row. Think about it. That Kofi could take an L Thursday and Friday and just totally this could come together very quickly.
Yeah.
It's the right move. It's the right move. And the reason I say it's the right move, because in the short term, it's the right move because it elicits a very good response out of the crowd. And it's also a very good storyline. And in the long term, it works because, again, that whole idea of bringing Big E back into the fold, like having one big match with Big E a year later where, you take him down, but then you put your hand out and say, we're brothers. That equally will get an amazing reaction.
WWE, you have the perfect storm brewing right here, right now. Will you harness it and take it and bring it to this storyline?
We'll see. Watch, they're going to end up just winning. They're just gonna end up beating the Revival.
They win the tag team titles,
and it's like, okay, well, then it was the thing I was afraid of. Nope, they're just gonna let them, just gonna let them win and just let them keep being the New Day, which is equally okay. I'm just trying to introduce interesting story into WWE because right now they've got none, not really. They're even faltering on their most important story. They're faltering on it. And then, like, who cares about Seth Rollins? Like, that's bad, but who cares about Seth Rollins? And then, honestly, I mean, this is me personally. I know she's really over, but who cares about Becky Lynch?
Yeah. One question is on the where is Alexa Bliss?
I'm not sure.
Because also on Friday, there is a match. It's Bayley joining forces with Fire and Desire, Sonya Deville and Mandy Rose to go up against Nikki Cross, Carmella, and Dana Brooke.
That sounds like a horrible match.
What?
And where is Alexa Bliss? Like, why would Nikki Cross be in some sort of tag team-ish match without her tag team partner, Alexa Bliss?
She could be injured. Maybe she's on vacation. I don't know.
How many times is that girl going to be hurt?
Yeah.
Like, she is like Mrs. Glass. Like, she is always on the shelf.
Very, very, very weird match. When I saw that they came out with that, I was like, huh. And by the way, Roman Reigns against King Corbin also next.
Well,
There
they
we
set
go.
that. Yeah, they set that up on WWE backstage where King Corbin came and jumped Roman Reigns. I think that makes all the sense in the world.
Yeah.
King Corbin's a perfect guy for Roman to get another, another bunch of really good matches and a bunch of TV time, and he's over. So they're both over in their own aspects. So I think it's a good matchup, and it'd be a pretty big, pay-per-view match if you put it on there. I mean, it's a way of Roman being in a big match without holding a title.
Yeah. Well, man, what a morning. Well, let's go around the horn real quick, boys.
Morning.
What's something that you're hoping to see? Either from Crown Jewel, maybe this week on television. Anything. Before we say good night to all the folks listening.
I'm looking to see getting rid of this Crown Jewel on Thursday. It's a terrible pay-per-view. It's all just for BS reasons. The matches are all BS for the most part. We're probably going to come in next week and all say that we all hated Crown Jewel and we're happy that it's over. And then we have at least a few months or a year until their next stupid Saudi Arabian pay-per-view. I just hope they don't really screw things up at Crown Jewel. I mean, please, you've screwed it up enough, WWE. Don't screw it up even more than you already have, in my opinion.
Well, I mean, the good thing about Crown Jewel is they can just ignore that it ever happened. They've done stuff like that before.
True. Very true. Very
like,
true.
why don't we don't see Mansoor, wrestling all the time in WWE for a reason.
Yeah. I think I'm going to give some love to NXT. I'm really interested to see how War Games starts taking shape now that Finn Balor, one of the guys that we thought would be on the War Games face side, has now set himself up for a Gargano Finn Balor match, probably singles match, which is going to be a great match at War Games. So how do we map out the rest of War Games? What faction, what crew is going to get put together to go up against Undisputed? Are we even going to get that? Are they going to take some swerve line and let the women do it?
No, you have to have it with Undisputed
No,
Era.
I don't.
You have to.
I don't think so. I think you're wrong. I think we've seen Undisputed Era in War Games many a time, and it's it's almost too obvious to do that again. Now, it'll be an awesome match. Let's not lie. It'll be a great match if they do it that way. But you have an opportunity right now to put together a War Games match with some NXT women that I think would work really well. But you got to start putting it together now, because you have kind of good, bad getting mapped out, but you don't have enough. Let's see. You got Shayna Baszler. You got Io Shirai. I don't know who the other two would be on the heel side, because you really can't use the rest of the 4 horsewomen because they're really not good enough, and they proved that in the ring.
Oh, you mean Ears McGee? You don't want her in the ring?
No, not Ears McGee. It'd almost be interesting if you take the women's tag titles and you fold it into NXT like we're about to do next week. So it would be interesting if you could put together some type of War Games match for the women. I'm interested to see what NXT does now that they took this swerve with Balor, because for sure we thought he was going to be the 4th member on that War Games team. And now it's like, you can mix somebody else in there, but you lost 2 guys on that War Games team, essentially. I mean, Riddle can get pushed in there, Velveteen get pushed in there, but you still need a 4th person. And I don't know what direction they're going to go. And it'll be interesting how it builds up to the next NXT pay-per-view, which feels like we haven't had one in forever.
Yeah. And Jimmy, before you go, what is with the NXT women getting like a shot at the WWE tag titles?
Love
like
it.
There are so many other quote unquote tag teams that we have in WWE. Like, why are we now intermingling?
Well, no, it was what they said initially. They said
Well,
that they
I
were
think-
going to go across different brands. They said that they would go down to NXT.
Right,
They
which
did?
we love. We love that, but I think what Chuck's pointing at is who got the shot. Who's getting the shot, to me, doesn't make a lot of sense.
Sure, but
You've given it to Cripple-E and Cripple-B. I mean, it's like ridiculous.
Oh my God. Wow, I really have to write that down as the episode name. Are you kidding me, Chuckles?
I don't mean to do it, but I mean, good grief. What is with the knee braces on these two?
Well, they've
Well,
had injuries.
Yeah, Knox is
Holy-
like the
come
poor
on.
girl is like gone through so many surgeries and stuff, and like she just can't get a roll going, so they're giving her a push now. I'm on your side though, Chuck. I don't think that they are the ones to get this tag shot. It makes sense. I would like to see the Iconics show up or something to interfere in this match. It would make more sense to me. I love the Kabuki Warriors as heels right now, and I love them going down to NXT, but who they're facing in NXT kind of doesn't make sense. It's almost like a squash match. It's almost like an enhancement match that you don't need.
Yeah.
The premise of going down to NXT, good. The tag team that they put together seems very quick, and I mean, Team Kick is something that's been going on for a while in the independent rounds and on the house shows for NXT, but I don't think the regular audience is getting it right now, and I don't think we get it right now.
Yeah. I mean, if the point of this match is to show that you're really intermingling the women's tag team titles into Raw, into NXT, and into SmackDown, okay. I mean, yeah, I get it, but I mean, I don't like the choice of the 2 NXT women. I mean, and when you have a number of other, I'll use quotes in this quote, main show women's tag teams that you could have put them up against. I mean, hey, if they're trying to get
number,
if they're trying to
like
get
1 or 2.
the NXT, people a little bit more FaceTime or whatever, that's fine against, the main show people. Great. But I mean, nothing against the 2 of them. I mean, they are both talented wrestlers, but I mean, it does not work for me.
The women
Well-
can't travel to Saudi Arabia, so they figured let's send them to Orlando.
Yeah.
Or to one of your desires, Chris, it is where you have the Iconics pop up and ruin the match.
It would help. It would help the storyline. It would help the Iconics get their names back into the main roster and into the into the storylines. It makes all the sense in the world for the Iconics to be
It'd be
that
great.
heel tag team that's like cheating all the time. But I don't know how that works with the Kabuki Warriors because they've already presented themselves as the bad guys, the real bad heels. So it's going to be interesting. You're going to have 2 heel tag teams and still no real faces.
Well, I'm on board with the women's wrestling thing as my thing to hopefully get, and by that for the different programs, I mean this: build good storylines on the main shows with women. Don't give us dreck like Lacey Evans going up against local talent, or Nikki Cross pairing up with Carmella and Dana Brooke, which doesn't even make sense to go up against Bailey and Fire and Desire. Like, I'm fine with the Bailey Fire Desire side of it, and I've got very little interest in the Dana Brooke Carmella. Not because I don't like them as wrestlers, because they just doesn't make any sense. You haven't built anything to lead me to believe that makes sense in my brain. Therefore, my brain is rejecting it. For NXT, let's build towards a few better matchups. Like, let's get away from Ripley and Belair and move towards, Ripley and anybody else. She's awesome. Put her against somebody awesome. Start a program. Let's start showing off some of these really super talented women that we have in NXT. And for AEW, please don't put Britt Baker on. I don't dislike Britt Baker. I don't dislike Riho, but I'm tired of seeing both of them. Give me a match between two. Give me like Penelope Ford or Sadie Gibbs or Yuka Sakazaki, especially Yuka Sakazaki, because I really like her a lot.
You just like saying her name. Get out of here.
She's awesome.
I know.
And like, why not like Yuka Sakazaki versus Hikaru Shida or something like that? That would be a pretty good match. I mean, give us a good women's match, please. Instead, I don't know if you guys saw it, but there was this weird spot where Britt Baker beats Jamie Hayter, and then Jamie Hayter's in the back, and then Brandy Rhodes attacks her, and then like is putting her finger in the face of the backstage announcer or whatever. It was like really awkward.
There's a couple of good memes and gifs about that. It's pretty funny.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not interested, but like it's just, please give me some other women. I don't want like the same 3-4 women rotation when you have twice as many women as that. The men's, we've discovered today, the men's division is doing a pretty good job of rotating almost everybody through. You need to start doing it with the women. And if that means adding an extra women's match, then that's what you got to do. You don't have to do it every single week, but give me something. And this is Big Baby Jimmy being critical about AEW. I love AEW. All right. But so that's all our time. Thank you for listening to us wherever, however, whenever. We really appreciate it. Make sure you share us with all your friends if you like us. Make sure you like, subscribe, criticize. We'll take anything. I'm not afraid to argue with the fans. That's for sure. But we will see you next week after the great Crown Jewel debacle has subsided. See you later, everybody.